What's going on, guys? It's Boxing Lowdown here, and this is episode number 13, the first one of 2021. I'm delighted to be joined once again by my dad, Mr. Laurie from AFTV.
When Ryan Garcia does it, or anyone wants to say he's got the fastest hands in boxing.
But listen, we got two special guests today, man. Not one, we got two. One of them coming all the way from America, man. So let's introduce him first. Gonna introduce my guy Jeff, all the way from Philly. Big welcome to him, man. First time coming on the show. What's happening, Jeff?
Hey, what's going on, fellas, man? Appreciate the invite, man. Glad to be here.
Good to have you, man.
Nice to see you, Jeff, man. How you doing?
Hey, man, good to see you.
And we've also got your favorite guy, Dad, another boxing writer. And we're going to bring him on. He was fire on the show last time. And you know what he said to me today? He said he's got some controversial things to say. So we're going to get him back on, man. Big up, Shane. What's going on, bro?
What's up, man? It was so nice that we had to do it twice. That's good, bro.
He's got the franchise belt with him as well.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm going to get some more as well.
What did you do? Did you buy it at the same store that Triple G bought his, yeah?
Hey.
And Devin Haney.
It's good to have you guys on, man. And delighted to have you both in.
1 second, bro. I'm gonna leave and come back in because I can't literally see anything Jeff's doing. So I think it's me. So I'll try to jump out and come back in.
Okay. All right, guys. While we're here, listen, man. We'll just crack on. We'll talk about obviously the fight that took place last weekend between Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell. I want to hear both of your opinions on it, particularly yours, Jeff. And we'll go back to Shane as well when he comes back on the chat. But yeah, man, let's talk about it. Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell. I think he's back here now. Let me just add him back in. How's that? Is that better?
Both Jeff and Laurie's gone now. So I don't know. I think it's me, bro.
We can see you. We can all see you. So we'll carry on.
Yeah, go on.
But yeah, Ryan Garcia and Luke Campbell took place last weekend. Very entertaining fight. Garcia came in there on the throne. It was a bold move for somebody that hasn't done anything yet, but he came in there, he proved himself. He got dropped in the second round, picked himself up, did very well to hurt Luke Campbell at the end of the fifth. Then he stopped him at the seventh round. Great stoppage win for Ryan Garcia. The first time Luke Campbell has been stopped in his career. A pivotal moment, it seemed, in his career, bouncing back from adversity and then coming back to win. Let's go around the chat, man. Let's start off with you, Dad. Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell. What was your thoughts on that fight and the performance?
Right, first up, Happy New Year to you, to Jeff, Shane, and everybody else watching, man. Happy 2021. Not been started off the best way with all the COVID going around. I'm just recovering from it myself, but
okay.
Great to be here chatting about boxing, man. You know what I mean? But yeah, to answer your question, yeah. First thing up, people need to understand as well, not that you guys, I'm sure you guys know, but a lot of people would be under the misapprehension that this was for a world title. It wasn't actually a world title fight. I've seen a lot of people carrying on like Ryan Garcia won a world title fight the other day. It was an interim, mandatory thing. But in terms of the fight itself, it was a decent fight, man. It was a decent fight. In terms of the performances, I thought Ryan performed well. I think there were quite a lot of flaws as well, though. I think he's far from the finished article. But he fought well. He rose to the occasion, unlike Luke Campbell, who I was disappointed with, to be honest, if I'm being totally honest. And he deserved it.
Disappointed with Luke Campbell?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, it's interesting because there's been two differing sides of opinion from the opposite sides of the pond. So over here in this country, we done what we tend to do a lot in this country, which was glorify the loser and say how brave he was and what a great performance he put on. And in America, they've been basically crashing it and saying that, he didn't show enough heart and stuff like that. I wouldn't go that far, but I would go as far as to say that I was a bit disappointed with the performance, man, because Ryan Garcia is very beatable, you know what I mean? And my man, even if he didn't have the beating of him, man, he could have done a lot better than what he did the other night. He was way too passive. He hurt Ryan Garcia in the second round, dropped him heavily. He wasn't just, this was no flash knockdown, man. He dropped him hard, right? And it has to be said, he let him off the hook, man. He let him off the hook. There's no other way of looking at it. You know what I mean? He had his opportunity there. He hurt him badly. He could have gone on, and if not forced a stoppage, at least put it on him a little bit. And I was disappointed that he didn't do that. So, I mean, okay, you could say Ryan had a lot to do with that because he obviously hit him with shots that made Luke Campbell think twice about going in. But even so, man, it's a world title fight. Me and you said before last week on your show that there's no way he's going to go to America and get a points decision. So the mindset should have been, once I hurt him, once I drop him, I got to try and either drop him again or finish it, because there's no way you're going to coming out of there with a points victory. So in essence, I mean, I've got more to say, but yeah, I'll let the others see what they say. But yeah, I was disappointed in Luke Campbell.
Okay, man. Yeah, big up Stephen Blower in the chat, man. He's put, love that, Daz. Keep going, G. No doubt, bro. We've got to keep pushing, man. Jeff, let me go to you because I'm curious to hear your opinion on not only the fight itself, but what you guys in the US make of UK fighters in general. You know, like, what's your opinion of us? Do you know what I mean? Like, because the reason why I ask is because going into this fight, I mean, Luke Campbell, he was rated quite highly over here. I mean, he's our best ever amateur in terms of what he's accomplished. He won Olympic gold medal. He represented us on the world stage. He was the captain of the Olympic team. He didn't quite pick up a world title in the pros. Obviously, I know it's different in the amateurs and the pros, but going into this fight, when I was looking at the predictions, I just saw everybody writing Luke Campbell off. Like, nobody gave him a chance, even against somebody as talented as Ryan Garcia, but unproven on the world stage. So if you wouldn't mind just letting me know, like, what your thoughts of the UK are, as well as your thoughts on the fight itself.
The fight, it was a great fight. I mean, it was a great way to kick off 2021. I predicted Ryan Garcia was going to get a close decision. I was thinking 7-5. With Ryan Garcia, he has a lot of technical flaws in his game. And the main thing I was looking for with Luke Campbell is if he's a good fighter, then he's going to be able to expose a lot of those technical flaws that Ryan Garcia has. Luke Campbell was able to do that. Like, every hole that Ryan Garcia has in his game, Luke Campbell exposed all of them at least once in that fight, with it only being a 7-round fight. He got caught with a perfect body shot. But, I mean, Luke Campbell, he's a good fighter. He's just here in the States. He's like that second tier. Like, we had the top tier, and Luke Campbell is within that second tier. But I thought Luke Campbell did well. As far as the second round, him getting the knockdown, Laura, you have to keep this in mind. We just watched Anthony Yarde go for it all against Kovalev when he had him hurt, thinking that he wasn't going to get a points decision, and he ended up burning himself out. And always said in that fight that Anthony Yarde got knocked out by fatigue. It wasn't the jab that Kovalev landed. He got knocked out by fatigue in that fight. So I don't know if that's something that Luke Campbell was looking at, why he didn't pounce on Ryan Garcia. But yeah, that was his opportunity. I think he should have turned up after he got the knockdown, and it almost seemed like he was content with the knockdown and he was just going to go back to regular business. And I think the magnitude of the moment, I think he should have tried to do more to capture the moment, for sure.
And yeah, very good point there. What's your thoughts on just the UK scene? I know we'll touch on it a bit more, but
Right.
could you understand like why loads of people were picking against Luke Campbell? Or did you? I mean, you had it as a close points decision, but from what I saw, everyone was quite dismissive, particularly like Devin Haney and others.
Let me explain this about the US. The UK has more hardcore fans than US fans. Period. Like, I wish y'all fans would be over here. So when a lot of people speak negatively of Luke Campbell, a lot of it is just lack of knowledge. There's lack of knowledge, lack of popularity in terms of the States with Luke Campbell. So I'm a hardcore in the essence, so I know everything about Luke Campbell. So I think Luke Campbell doesn't get the notoriety or anything in the States because people don't take the time to look him up. People don't take the time to look him up. So that's why people were dismissing Luke Campbell, because everybody knows who Ryan Garcia is because of social media. But when you actually break down the technical stuff, and Shane and I talked about this before the fight, there was a lot of technical things that we felt like Luke Campbell could take advantage of. It was just a matter of what was Luke Campbell going to do in the back half of the fight. I think Luke Campbell does very well in the first half of the fight. He diminishes towards the back half of fights. Even in the Lomachenko fight, he just, like, what he does inside of the ring best, it diminishes as the fight goes on. So it's almost like you can kind of wait Luke Campbell out and kind of get him in the second half of the fight. So that's what I was looking for with Luke Campbell in the fight. And he just, I mean, the body shot was crazy. Like, the body shot was crazy. He just couldn't get to the second half of the fight. But yeah, I like Luke Campbell. I like Luke Campbell. I think he's second tier at 135. I would say he's in my top 10, like, back half at 135. He's done a lot. Like, he's done a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. As far as UK fighters in general, and I talked to Shane about this, what was that, last week, Shane? I think we talked about it last week. When it comes down to UK fighters, think about it this way. UK fighters that are considered great or special in the UK, all of them have a goal to come to the US to prove that they're great or special. I think at some point with UK fighters, I think they need to get that US experience to really test and see how great they are. Couple names off the top of the head, Chris Eubank Jr. I felt like when he took the Billy Joe Saunders loss, he should have came over to the States. Anthony Yard, he's another one. They have a lot of physical talent, but I think you can get to a certain level in the UK. I just think they need to cross over to the States at some point to take their game to the ultimate level. And I feel like a lot of those fighters they just don't do it. And it's throughout history. Like, I can go back 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and there's UK fighters that's considered great in the UK. And I just felt like they should have came over to the States and really, like, took it to the next level. So UK fight, I have a lot of respect for UK fighters. It just depends on who you're talking about. Like, if you gave me specific names, then I can really break it down. But just overall, I have a lot of respect for UK fighters. A lot of respect for UK fighters.
Respect for that, Jeff, man. We'll touch in on that a bit more. We're going to bring Shane in as well now. Shane, I want to hear your thoughts on the fight last weekend. And I want you to answer this question as well afterwards. That is, do you think Garcia can take Tank on? I personally think he has no chance. So, first of all, let me hear your thoughts on the actual fight. And then you can answer this question here for Stephen Blow.
Yeah, that's cool. Firstly, the only question mark that was there was about what Ryan would do. It wasn't about what Luke could do, because everybody knows what Luke's going to do. He's kind of the same thing. It was a good, acid test for Garcia, just to see where he's at. You know, is he just another hype job, or is he a person who's the real deal? I feel like we're still unsure whether he's ready for the Teofimo Lopez of the division, but he definitely showed he answered a lot of questions that might have been over his head before the fight. I feel like people shouldn't really pay too much attention to the fact that he beat Luke Campbell, because, in all due respect to Luke Campbell is not really, in my personal opinion, he's like a continuous loser at the top level. Like, he's had many fights not many, but he's had 2 fights at the world level and he's lost. So there's no point getting too excited about it, because we already knew what he was. But in the fashion and how he done it, I thought that was impressive. And whether he's ready for a Tank, personally, I don't think so. Personally, I don't think he's ready for Tank, because one thing I realized about Garcia was, and I saw this before the fight as well, defensively, he's still not responsible enough. Yeah, he can get up off the ground. Yeah, he's got good speed. But in terms of his feet in transition, is exactly what I thought he was. Luke Campbell's not the most aggressive fighter, neither is he the hardest hitting lightweight. And he was able to tag him, hurt him, drop him. And I feel like someone like Tank, you know, you have to be extremely defensively responsible for the 12 rounds. And the problem is when you feel Tank's power, that's when it becomes a problem. Because Garcia, to me, what I was impressed with was when he felt Luke Campbell's power, instead of being a bit timid and shy, he actually went more for the fight. He showed a bit more respect, but he didn't he didn't go in his shell. He kind of expressed himself still. But Tank is a different level. He's a different level of opponent. And I feel like one of the things we saw with Luke Campbell was the mentality of Luke Campbell and Tank's two different things. Luke Campbell's used to losing. Tank doesn't know what losing means. So when the tough times come, you know what Luke Campbell's gonna do. You know, he's give 100%, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have enough substance about him to actually go through with it. Whereas Tank is he's a different level of fighter.
All right, here's a question for you, Laurie. A lot of people, I've noticed a lot of people say that, you know, after the Ryan Garcia Luke Campbell fight, a lot of people were saying that there's no way Tank beats there's no way Ryan Garcia beats Tank. No way that happens, blah blah blah. But are we forgetting, you know, the dimensions in that fight will be completely different. You've got Tank that's about 5'5", I'd say 5'6". Luke Campbell's about 5'9", 5'10". The shot that he got caught with was a looping, you know, hook from Campbell. Different dimensions, isn't it? So wouldn't that be a different fight altogether? Do you think people are being reactionary, or do you think that they've got a point?
No, listen,
you mind if I jump back in quickly?
Yeah, do it.
Now, in answer to your question, yeah, you're right. Styles make fights, and the dimensions of the fighters are different. But I think Shane did allude to a very good point. It's and that was mindset. And this is the reason why I was a bit disappointed in Luke Campbell, because I'm thinking that if you're traveling across to America for a fight of this magnitude, and you're fighting someone who is very much the hometown fighter, the next big thing, the next star. Luke Campbell, who's 33 years old, former Olympic gold medalist, and most decorated amateur, very experienced, and Shane McGuigan, who's his trainer, who's been in multiple world title fights now, and by all recognition is a very good trainer. You had to have known that you're not going to go to America and steal a point decision. Now, where I was disappointed in Luke Campbell is that, yes, he was fighting tall and he was countering quite well, but that's not going to be the mindset or the approach that's going to get you a victory in America. You've got to go there, basically, and take that fight. So I needed to see some more aggression from him. And like Shane said, it's almost like he settled into that, I'm happy to be here, I'm a good loser, rather than go out there and win. And I think that's what Shane was alluding to, and I agree with him. When you get someone like Tank in there, Tank is looking to destroy. He's not looking to just take part and nick rounds. You know, you saw when he fought Santa Cruz, he didn't have a great performance against Santa Cruz, but the difference was the mindset.
Sorry, let me just stop you there. There's a bit of feedback coming through. So whoever's not talking, if we just go on mute, just so we could hear you speak properly, and then that should be better. Yeah, I think it might be you, Jeff. But yeah, we'll just keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so what I'm going to say is the mindset is the crucial thing here. If you're going to go to America and attempt to win this fight and put yourself back up there in the world title hunt, you needed to have gone there and made a statement. Boxing behind a jab and being passive, it wasn't going to do it for me. You needed to be more aggressive. And I just didn't see enough of that from Luke. I think he had the skills to do a lot more. He exposed Ryan to a certain degree, but I just don't think that he had that killer instinct in him that would enable him to have won that fight that night.
But didn't Jeff make a good point there with what he said there about maybe shot in his bolt? Didn't he make a good point there? I mean, Stephen Blower here, he's put a great point, Laurie. So he agrees with what you said here. Lawrence Williams, he's in the chat, he's put what's good. Not much, bro. We're just here, man, chopping it up. Yeah, man.
I hear what Jeff's got to say, but here is my response to that. I think it was a slightly different fight to Anthony Yarde and Kovalev, yeah? Insofar as Anthony Yarde was behind in the fight, and then he had that great 8th round, and then he hurt Kovalev. And, you know, let's face it as well, he's inexperienced and the corner was inexperienced. And the so-called empty the tank stuff that we heard from Tunde was the wrong tactic, obviously, because, you know, Anthony threw everything at him and blew himself out. But this was slightly different because at no time did Luke ever let his hands go. Even when he knocked Ryan Garcia down. And like I said previously, to me, it wasn't a flash knockdown. It was a heavy knockdown, right? So what he should have done was gone in and looked to assert himself. Now, when I say going in and assert yourself, AJ made the mistake when he fought Ruiz. Remember? When in that third round, when he decked Ruiz heavily. Similar to Garcia, he decked Ruiz heavily, right? And Ruiz was hurt. Right, and then he went in, but the problem with him is that he went in recklessly. So you've got to go in and look to, if not finish a guy, look to assert your dominance, but maybe not. You don't just go in recklessly. You know what I mean? There's a difference, and I just think that
that's a mentality.
He was too passive.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. To me, that's a mentality thing, and I see that issue with a lot of British traveling fighters.
Yeah.
You know, when you travel abroad, I just feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I get the impression when I watch British fighters, they're just happy to give 100%. They don't really care about winning. Because, like, we can get into this further down the line, but was there a massive skill gap between Luke Campbell and Ryan Garcia in those first 5 rounds? There wasn't a massive, athletically, Ryan Garcia is way more gifted. But in terms of what they can actually do and how they can actually perform, Luke Campbell is much more of a proven fighter. So to me, one of the things that I was annoyed about was the mentality. It goes back to what Laurie was saying, the mentality of Luke Campbell. He was just happy to lose, in my opinion. Like, I see so many fighters.
You think he was happy to lose?
Not happy to lose, but to me, it's like, okay, that's the wrong thing. When you watch Mayweather, and I don't have to use an extreme, when you watch Mayweather and you watch someone like Callum Smith when he fought Canelo, the difference was Callum Smith wanted to win. Mayweather knew he was going to win. The difference with Ryan Garcia was when he dropped Luke Campbell, it almost looked like, when Luke Campbell dropped Ryan Garcia, it almost looked like a surprise to him. Like, wow, I can't believe I've done that kind of thing. Like, he doesn't have that. I don't even believe he felt like he was going to win. I think like he wanted to win, but I don't feel like he knew he was going to win. And that's the difference with Tank. When Tank goes in that ring, he believes he's going to knock everybody out. Luke Campbell does not believe that. He doesn't believe or know that he's going to win every fight. And there's a big difference. There's a massive difference.
I have to agree with you. Do you remember?
Let's go back.
Right? Remember when Tank came over here and he fought Ryan Walsh? And I remember there's a lot of people in this country, man, so don't sleep on Ryan Walsh, man. You know what I mean? With his skill.
But did you think that?
No, but the point I'm trying to make is that Tank went in there and he ripped that title from him. He didn't even give him a chance to get started. And as soon as Ryan Walsh was hurt, he was all over it.
Let's get Jeff back in, because that's a good point, what Laurie says there. When Americans have come over here, you got Errol Spence when he fought Kell Brook, which was, that was a great win for him, at the time, literally coming in his back garden to get the belt. Terence Crawford has come over here, like Gervonta Davis come over here. When they've come over here, they've done their thing. Do you agree with what Laurie and Shane are saying about the mentality of the British fighter when they go in there on American soil?
Yeah, it's mostly mentality. Also, you got to factor in they're in a different environment. They're outside of their usual environment. So when they come over here to the States, not only do you have to battle that, but you have to battle the opponent as well. So if you go to, let's just say, Luke Campbell, right? I think with him fighting the way he did in the second round, he got the knockdown. And I told Shane this prior to the fight. Luke Campbell still has to go through a process to get adjusted to the speed. He's never faced anybody with that much speed, even though he got a knockdown in the second round. So he still had to get adjusted. The question was, when was he going to get adjusted? By the time he get adjusted, was he going to be flat on his back? When was he going to get adjusted? So I think even after the knockdown, I think he was still going through that process. So Yes, this
what
mentality.
you needed to have taken. And listen, I'm not his biggest fan for a number of reasons, but Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, he did there what me and Shane are talking about. He believed he was going to win. He went out there, when the bell. This is the second fight I'm talking about.
Right.
When the bell went out there, you see how quickly Tyson Fury literally ran out, established in the ring. And he basically pushed Wilder back. And from that minute on, you knew, man, that Wilder was in for a long night. And this is what I'm talking about. Luke Campbell and some of the other guys I could talk about more recently, they've not shown me that they're fully committed to win. And that's a mindset problem. And that's where I do agree with Shane.
And just to double back on that, and this is one of the things where I kind of feel like people underestimate in terms of the mentality of it. Because I remember an interview with Emmanuel Stewart, and he was talking about the fighters he's trained. He said one of the most skillful fighters he's trained was Robert Helenius, but he didn't have the mentality of it. He just didn't have the right mentality. Whereas he was training Tyson Fury when he was not that good, but he said he will be a world champion just off his mentality alone. Like, mentality carries you so far in the sport, just purely and simply because your perception of yourself can then be projected onto your opponent. So your opponent can also believe your hype as well. So therefore, they can then think, you know what, I have to respect him because of X, Y, Z. That doesn't happen in Britain. That doesn't happen at all. All Britain is, we're going to give 100%, but when it gets tough, we don't have enough to go through with it. This is just the facts.
You know what I would say as well, right, is that and this goes to what I'm saying about, I was disappointed in Luke, because if you look at Ryan Garcia, right, let's be honest, right, take away all the and all this type of stuff and some of the disgraceful commentary, people like Chris Mannix, who are absolute disgrace to boxing, people like that. You know, the dick riding that was going on after that fight was absolutely, it was making me physically sick, honestly. But if you look at it, right, and Jeff alluded to this as well, Shane said it, so I'm not, you know what I mean, I'm not trying to be the smartest man in the room. This guy's got so many flaws, bro. You know what I mean? Apart from the knockdowns, right, apart from the knockdown and the heart he showed in getting up for, his performance, to be honest with you, wasn't really that good. Did he have a good jab? Did he have good footwork? Did he give you angles in there? Did he have head movement? No. You know what I mean? All he did was he took advantage of his the impetuosity of youth, that he wasn't going to be beaten, which I commend him for. And he did have that. He did have good hand speed and belief in himself. But what skills that night did he really show to make you think, you know what? This is a star is born. Did you watch that fight and think, wow, man?
All right, let me jump in. I mean, with Ryan Garcia, like, look, what he showed me on that night, and just before I go into it, big up boxing comparisons here with the comment. He's put a lot of British fighters have lost mentally already before they've got on the plane. So he seems to agree with what you're saying there, Shane.
100%.
Let me spit. Like, Ryan Garcia, how he impressed me. Look, this guy, the level of competition that he's fought was nowhere near the level of Luke Campbell before. The confidence that he displayed going into the ring, for me, going in there against Luke Campbell, he got dropped heavily in the second round, of course. Not only did he get up straight away, he recovered straight away, despite it being a heavy knockdown. He did get caught, but what he showed to me was resilience. He showed heart, and he showed a goodwill to win. I mean, these are things that
you just said, with respect, Daryl, you've just said what I said.
Yeah, but he's talking about skills. He's talking about skills.
I'm talking about his skill level. I'm talking about what he produced on the night in terms of a young fighter. Right?
No, he's the first fighter to listen. He's the first fighter to stop Luke Campbell. Let's say that. And Luke Campbell's been in the ring with Lomachenko and Linares. He's the first fighter to stop him with a body shot, and he displayed good hand speed. I mean, this guy, he did well on the night. I think, like, there's going to be flaws.
He did well, yeah. But what I'm saying is, did you look at his skill set and think to yourself, a star is born? Because I didn't.
I didn't either.
I didn't. Let
me get Jeff back in. Sorry, Jeff, I had to mute you because of the feedback, but I'll get you back in.
Yeah, I think a star can be born, but at the same time, you're not necessarily impressed with their technical ability. Ryan Garcia has hella flaws in his game. Like, he has flaws like crazy. His whole game is height and speed. but he's heavy on his feet. He does the same thing Fury does. He leaves out the back door, hands down, chin up. That's why he doesn't have a shot against Tank, because technically he has so many flaws and he's had them his whole career. But when you've had the success that Ryan Garcia has had, he hasn't had a reason to correct them. So all of that flashy stuff he does on social media, none of that means nothing. Luke Campbell proved that he was a good fighter because he was able to expose some of the things that Ryan Garcia he lacks at inside of the ring. So that's why I wasn't necessarily disappointed with Luke Campbell, because he was the first person to really expose some of those deficiencies. But Ryan Garcia has a lot of deficiencies.
Luke Campbell's nothing but good, though. This is the thing. Luke Campbell is exactly what you just said. He is nothing. I don't want people to get excited about this victory for Ryan Garcia, because to me it was just a rudimental win. To me, I didn't even see how. I'm surprised they even got dropped. I'll be honest. I thought that Ryan Garcia, that was more of a con against him than a pro, that he stopped him. Because me personally, Luke Campbell didn't look like he was gonna drop Ed. Didn't look like he was gonna drop Lomachenko. I don't read.
Can I make a point here, right? Can I make a point? And I'll be curious to see what the other guys think, right? So in the lightweight division now, we know it's fairly smoking in terms of young talent, American talent, right? So you've got Lopez, you've got Tank, you've got Haney, you've got Shakur Stevenson, and you've got Garcia. To me, Garcia is comfortably at the bottom of that list. He doesn't beat any of those guys. He doesn't beat Tank. He does not.
He might have a good shot. He might have a slight chance against Shakur only because of size. But
he's got a puncher's chance against all of them. But what I'm saying is,
he's not there yet, is he?
Stevenson beat him tomorrow.
No, I mean he's not at lightweight yet.
He's at 130. He's at 130.
But he's in the mix for that. You know, he's growing. So within a year or so, he's going to be around about that weight. But I would put Shakur Stevenson with Ryan Garcia right now and be comfortable that he'd box his ears off. You know what I mean? Garcia's got a puncher's chance against any of those guys because we know he can punch and we know he's got the heart. So, you know, he's got a very good mindset. So he will believe that he can win. Hence, he's been calling out Tank and stuff like that. But realistically, if I was going to make a list, he would be at the bottom of that list and comfortably so as well. I don't know what the other guys think about that.
I agree with that, but sometimes it's about matchmaking. If you know your fighter's flaws, you can put him nicely and neatly with certain fighters and let the other killers kill each other, and then you still end up at the top of the mountain. It's just basic, and he's with De La Hoya, and we know De La Hoya done that with Canelo. You know, he made all of the killers fight each other. Then all of a sudden, he wanted to fight Golovkin like 2 years after he was mandatory. Like, we know how De La Hoya does. He will maneuver him in the right way until Devin Haney has to fight Teofimo Lopez. One of them loses, so one of them drops out. One of them moves up. So all of a sudden, Ryan Garcia's the only one here, and it's like, I'm the last man standing. But when they were all there, you didn't fight anyone. I just feel
and this is what I was saying earlier as well. I mean, I don't want to dominate the airwaves, sorry, but this guy Chris Mannix, man, seriously, fans like us have got to drive people like Chris Mannix out of boxing by hooker. This man, after the fight, the dick riding that was going on was just on a level. This man, Chris Mannix, was actually said to Ryan Garcia, you haven't got to fight any of those guys. You're the shot caller. He was actually calling him a shot caller. You are the shot caller. You don't have to fight anyone. You can do your own thing. And I thought to myself, this guy's not even won a title yet. And Chris Mannix is talking to him like he's Ali or like he's Chavez, or you know what I mean, one of the all-time greats. What do you know what I'll say? Nobody. You know what I mean?
Do you know what I'll say? I'll say Ryan Garcia, yeah. And listen, I'm not Chris Mannix, but what I will put it out there for you guys is if he's bottom of the pile, you look at who he's beaten, like Devin Haney. Would Luke Campbell be the best fighter on Devin Haney's resume right now?
Yeah, but then.
So why would you put him comfortably at the bottom of those particular lightweights? If he's wait. Shane, wait. Why would you put him at the bottom of those lightweights if he's got one of the better victories out of all of them?
That's a good point. I'll ask you a question. What I'm saying is, if you look at the skill sets of those fighters that I named, Teofimo, Tank, Haney, Shakur, and Ryan Garcia. When I look, I've seen all of those guys fight more than once, yeah? So I'm assessing them on their skill sets. And I'm
not resume, not who they've beaten.
Not necessarily looking at that. Resumes, because styles make fights. Styles make fights. So what I'm saying is, based on what I've seen of them, right, I would say that based on what I've seen, Ryan Garcia is the least talented of those 5. That's not to say that he's not going to have a successful career and go on to win multiple world titles. I'm just saying based on, obviously boxing's a subjective sport. So I'm saying based on what I've seen, the skill sets and the flaws, and they've all got flaws, but based on what I've seen so far, I would have to put him number 5 of that list.
Okay, let's get Jeff back in. Jeff, what's your thoughts on the fact that, and we've got boxing comparisons here. He said, I agree with Laurie on Ryan Garcia, so he agrees with you there. Jeff, what's your thoughts on the fact that Ryan Garcia, after the fight, he's mandated to fight Devin Haney now. Them two, that was ordered by the WBC. But it seems like everybody wants Tank Davis. That's what I've noticed. Like, Ryan Garcia literally on his knees begging for that fight. Lomachenko begging for that fight. Even Lopez was calling out Tank. What is it with Tank that all of these guys want him? Do they see something? Or is it the fact that, you know, he's the bigger draw? Or like, what do you think it is? Why are they all calling him out?
He's a huge draw in the States. He is a huge draw. There's also some technical things with Tank as well that could be exposed. So it's a combination of both. When you can win a fight and win popularity all at the same time, the target on your back is going to be big. So I think that's why Tank is getting called out by everybody. Laurie, I agree with you 100%. I think Ryan Garcia is number 5 on the list, strictly off of head-to-head. I think if he fights those other 4 guys, he loses to all of them. Now, Ryan Garcia is not at the bottom of the list in terms of resume, but head-to-head, though, I don't see him beating Shakur. I don't see him beating Tank. I don't see him beating Loma or Lopez. So, yeah, I agree with Laurie 100% on that.
What do you say, Shane? Where are you on this as well?
I don't think when you're judging prospects, it's fair to always look at resume. Sometimes you just look at trajectory. It wasn't a surprise when we saw Errol Spence become a world champion, because we saw him. He wasn't fighting top level opponents, but we saw how good he was in terms of his skill level. I feel like it's when you've had like 20 fights, and let's say 15 of those fights were journeyman, you can't really say, okay, this one's better than this one because of their resume. You look at how good are they and what attributes they have. So I feel like it's unfair to say, oh, because Ryan Garcia beat Luke Campbell, then he's obviously above. If you're looking at off resume, then okay. But me personally, it's off ability and what you can actually do inside of the ring. All of that doesn't mean anything, because I give you an example. A brilliant example. In the last 3 years,
even your
someone was
calling
me, man. Someone was calling me. In the last 3 years, Povetkin hasn't beaten as good opponents as Dylan White. He still got knocked out. Dylan White still got knocked out. So your level of opponent doesn't always affect how good you are as a fighter.
I think that's a good point. And then the other point we need to, when you're talking about resumes as well, is that sometimes it's not just who the fighter's beaten, is that it's the opportunity been given. So, for example, Teofimo Lopez was well connected with Top Rank. Lomachenko's Top Rank. They managed to get in the fight. Devin Haney, to be fair to him, he was calling out Lomachenko way long time ago. If not before. And I would say, had he got that opportunity, he would probably have beaten Lomachenko as well. So, you know, we can't say that because Teofimo beat Lomachenko, he's way better than all the rest of them. It's just that they haven't had the opportunity to do what he's done yet. You know what I mean? So it's a difficult one.
It is a difficult one, but what I'd say is that Devin Haney, as much as I'm a fan of his, didn't impress me in his last performance against Yuriorkis Gamboa.
Yeah, he did. Similarly, you're right in saying that. But then did Teofimo impress? When Teofimo fought the Japanese guy. I forget his name now. Did you look at that fight and think, yeah, he's going to beat Lomachenko? Most people didn't. But stars make fights. You know what I mean? He was obviously extra motivated for the Lomachenko fight. It was a different type in terms of style, and he came through with flying colours. But when he fought Nakatami, a lot of people thought he lost that fight. Now, okay, Devin, he talked a lot of shit before the Gamboa fight. Oh, I'm going to stop him, and he didn't do it. And he contributed to a lot of the criticism he took. That was his own fault, because he was out there saying he was going to put the guy away, he was going to knock him out, blah, blah, blah. And he didn't. But having said that, he won every round clearly against a guy that, you know, has got a name out there. So Devin Haney is still clearly a very good fighter, man. And if he was to fight Ryan Garcia tomorrow, I would put my money on Devin.
It's going to go to the comments here. We got Yezer. He's put, what's good, L-Dub. And then he's also commented here. He said he's a big draw in the States and he's a smaller guy coming up. So I guess he's talking about Tank Davis as to why so many guys are calling him out.
And not only that,
he's also commented here saying that, I don't know, man. I'm not sure that those guys would beat Loma. So he doesn't know if Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, those other guys, if they beat Loma. Who's still a factor in this division, don't you think?
No.
You know, what do you think, Jeff?
No, not anymore.
It depends on how he come back from his injury. People forget that Loma had surgery the Monday after the fight. So I'm actually curious to see how he looks coming back physically. Because when you have such an extensive amateur career, like he was in the amateur for a long time, you don't know how he is physically. So I need to see how he is physically before I can say, hey, you know, he's back up there with the big dogs. He got to show me. He got to show me physically.
I think mentally he's not in a good space either. You can tell by the excuses he's making, some of the crap that's coming out of his mouth. He's not taken defeat very well. And I think it shows. He's a bit like Wilder. He's in a bad place right now, man. So I'm not sure if he can, talent-wise, yes. He still remains a tremendously talented fighter. But it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the mindset. Does he have the mindset to conquer these young guns? I'm not so sure if he does.
Well, he's made a point to say that he's definitely going to stay at 135 pounds. So I guess we'll see how it all plays out. But let's talk about let's go on to something else, Jeff. I want to get your perspective on the whole Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder situation, the whole Glovegate issue. I know that that's a thing over there. Like, what's your thoughts on that? And just elaborate on what you thought about Tyson Fury's victory and Deontay Wilder right now.
As far as Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, they fought a total of 19 rounds. I think Wilder's won maybe 4 out of 19. It don't take me long to realize when somebody is just a bad matchup. Tyson Fury is a bad matchup for Deontay Wilder, point blank, period. As far as the Glovegate goes, I'll just say this and I'll leave it there. I've never seen anybody get away with that much cheating on the road. And I'm going to leave it there.
Going to go to the comments quickly here from Jay-Z. Big up, bro. He's put, Loma still has the ability to beat them all. He's got the ability, but where is he at? I think that's what Laurie and Jeff are saying here. That where is he at mentally right now? Because I have to agree with Laurie. Some of the excuses, man, that Lomachenko's been coming out with. He came out with another one today, speaking about CompuBox numbers and stuff like that. Just, man, I don't know. But,
you know what I mean, right? People laughing at Wilder. This guy is up there with him, man. The only thing he's got to say that would put him on the same level as Wilder is he's got to come out and accuse his own trainer of, you know what I mean? He's accused Bob Arum. He's accused of judges. He's talked about America not liking Eastern Europeans. He's a joker. He's an absolute joke. He's really gone down in my estimation, man. No class. You know what I mean? No class at all, man. And like I said, the man's taken defeat really badly. And it kind of indicates to me, man, that he might be finished at the top level. You know what I mean? It really is.
Because he's someone that likes to ride for the Eastern European. Shane likes to ride. He rides for the Eastern European, Shane does, man. So well, I'll let you respond. But
as well with Lomachenko, right? He's talking all this stuff, but what's the one thing you don't hear him talk about? Rematch. All excuses, but he's not talking about he wants a rematch.
He spoke about a rematch. I've
Go
seen
on,
him
Jeff,
mention it.
Jeff.
Go on, Jeff.
And the whole thing about Lomachenko saying they don't like him in the U.S., that's false. That is 100% false. Lomachenko and Usyk was at the Beterbiev and Vosdik fight. I was there. They did a meet and greet. The line was around the block, and that was in Philly. So him saying the U.S. doesn't like him, that's false. That's 100% false. I can stamp that. That's false.
We know that, man. We know that. In fact, I would go as far as to say that the kind of the hospitality that's been extended to Lomachenko and Usyk and people like that has been out the park. I think that they've been treated, and I know this sounds fairly controversial, but I truly believe this. I think that those guys have been treated better than the African-American fighters. That's just my view. So he's chatting complete nonsense, absolute nonsense, man. He's just suffering from cognitive dissonance. You know what I mean? The guy's in denial. He got beat. He never threw any punches for the first 6-7 rounds. And he nearly got stopped in the 12th. How the hell are you going to win on points? You know what I mean? He got beaten. And until he accepts that, man, then he's not going nowhere as far as I'm concerned.
Go on, Shane.
Yeah, I mean, the remark that was made about me to just backing all Eastern European fighters, I resent that remark because that's not the truth. I back certain fighters, and the reason why is because of the skill level. And the reason why this whole entire idea of me backing Eastern European fighters was because it was in comparison to British fighters. I love American fighters, and I
What's
love
your beef for British fighters, man?
I just don't like British fighters.
What's your beef for British fighters?
Personally, I just
You're
feel
British,
like
yeah?
Luke Campbell is the physical embodiment of exactly what Britain is. Britain is a country full of fighters that has a lot of try-hard merchants, passion, blood and guts, and all of that stuff. But they don't win when it comes to the elite level. It's like I got a list of fighters. So you got fighters like Bellew, Frampton, Crawlard,
Callum.
so much. Callum Smith. I can literally list like 15 fighters who, whenever they step up to the top level, they lose. Even Kell Brook, Carl Froch, all of these guys, George Grove, they all, whenever it's the crunch time and they fight a really elite fighter, they all lose because they just don't. To me, Britain is the most overrated country when it comes to boxing. The most overrated country. They produce literally, I would say, a handful of all-time greats, in my opinion.
No, but that's not really fair, man. I mean, we control the heavyweights right now. We got the two.
When you look at the boxing landscape, you can say we control the heavyweights. Okay, I put mine up and say Fury and AJ definitely at the top of the division. But if I was to go through the list of British fighters who fight elite fighters and lose, it is day and night. Name me 5 fighters right now who's beaten. Name me 5 British fighters who's beaten elite fighters.
No, but you know what? You know what, Shane, right? And it's not to preempt what you said, but you can ask Daryl. Me and Daryl had a conversation today, and I was actually saying to him that apart from the heavyweights, UK boxing is actually going through a bit of a drought right now because apart from AJ and Fury, okay, you got Billy Joe Saunders, but hey,
he hasn't beaten anyone elite.
There doesn't seem to be a lot of talent out there or fighters coming through that next generation. I mean, we went through a bit of a golden era. Lennox Lewis, Nigel Benn, Eubanks, Steve Collins, Carl Froch, Kawasaki, serious fighters.
Carl Froch was an elite fighter to me. Was an elite fighter.
He overachieved as a fighter.
Doesn't mean he was elite though. But yeah, I'll give you that one, but he wasn't elite. But go on.
Okay, but you can argue.
What about this fighter?
Yeah, Josh Taylor. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Josh Taylor's a quality fighter. He's a quality fighter.
Apart from Josh Taylor and AJ and Fury, right now, man, the cupboard's looking kind of bare. And I'm looking at the next level of guys coming through. And I have to say, man, there's not too much out there. There's not too much out there, man, at the moment.
Yeah. Jeff, what do you think? What do you think, Jeff? Because before we speak about the Americans on the other end of the spectrum, American, your talent is on the way up. like some of the guys that you got coming up, Edgar Berlanga, you've got like Jerron Ennis, you've got Virgil Ortiz, sorry, not Victor Ortiz. Like the lightweights, they're all coming up. Not Victor Ortiz, man. But yeah, you've got a load of guys coming up. But do you agree with what Shane's saying in particular? And Laurie, that like on our end of the scale, we don't really have that much talent coming through outside of the heavyweights. I mean, we do have Joshua Buatsi, you know, he's coming through. Got Lawrence Okoli, he's on. I'm talking about on the fringes of challenging that on that world stage. We've got some guys, but do you think that we're falling short a bit?
Yeah, there's less talent coming out of the UK now than it has been in the past. Even you mentioned the Buatsi, he's still questionable as far as the states is concerned. Me and Shane had a whole show about that, about Buatsi and Anthony Yard, whether they were ready for world title fights, and that was before their last fights. So yeah, I have to agree with that. And I love UK fighters. I just think a lot of them they get to the high level as far as the UK, and they just never make the transition over to the States to go to the next level. And that's what I want to see out of UK fighters. And I think you would get more UK talent to be exposed to the world if they're able to do that. Like take Josh Kelly. That's a perfect example. Josh Kelly, he came to the States. He fought Ray Robinson. I think he had less than 6 weeks to prepare for that fight. I was like, that's a bad matchup. Because we have nothing but Josh Kellys in our gyms all through the States. So what he does inside of the ring, we're used to seeing that every day in the gym. So once he steps up in competition, guys from the States are not going to be amazed by what Josh Kelly does. And I would say 2 years ago, I was like Josh Kelly and Conor Benn are night and day. But now you can arguably say Conor Benn's stock is higher than Josh Kelly. But I think UK's fighters, I just think they need to transition over to the States. Even if they come to the gym for like a couple of weeks, it may not even be a camp. Just come in for a couple of weeks, get the experience. And then when you come back to the UK, they're probably coming back a whole different monster. I think that's where the problem is.
An excellent point there, because if you look at to use the example, what the Eastern Europeans have done, Triple G, Bivol, he's training out in Canada, but he's sparring them a lot in America, apparently. A lot of these Eastern European, Deryevchenko, all these Eastern European guys, man, that's what they've done. They've come over, they've relocated to the States.
Even Klitschko got an American trainer. Even Klitschko got an American trainer.
Yeah, and even, back in the halcyon days, Lennox Lewis and guys like that, that's what they did. I mean, okay, Kawasaki was one of our best ever fighters. He didn't do that. And Froch didn't do that. Nigel Benn did, although Nigel Benn did a little bit of training in America, not so much. But yeah, so I think that's a good point that Jeff makes.
Let me just answer, because I want to make this point, and Laurie, I want you to answer this one. I was speaking on a live on Sunday, and I brought this question up, and he's a Brit, and we were speaking about like British fighters maybe losing their way, and what he said was that he felt it was unfair to judge it on the same scale due to the size of and the population as to how what's out there. Are we being a bit critical considering we're such a small island compared to the States? And before I carry on, Shane, I'll get you in. There's a question for you here as well. I want you to answer that. But we've got Cordina and Okoli. That's one suggestion. And I'm going to get you to answer this question here. So get your answer ready for that. But Laurie, what do you think about that argument about the size and the scale? Is it fair to judge? Is it fair to make a comparison?
But then, like Jeff said, American Jeff said that he made a very good point and said that, listen, in America, boxing is not really a mainstream sport anymore. So although they're like massive country, several times the size of the UK, but in terms of how big a sport boxing is in America, it could be argued that boxing in England is a bigger sport than it is in America, especially right now. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I just think that we spoke about it earlier: mindset, mentality, skills. the sparring, etc., etc. I think he's on another level in America, man. I really do. I think the train, you know what I mean? I just think it is. I think we punch above our weight for a relatively small country. I mean, what the UK is, what, 67, 70 million people. So, you know, and then there's a lot of other sports you got to throw in the mix, football and all the rest of it. So we do okay, but I just think at the moment, man, we're not producing top quality fighters at the same level as we did in previous years. I don't know what it is. There could be any number of reasons for that, but I just think that at the moment that is the case.
Well, Shane, answer this question for me from boxing comparisons. You said earlier that you don't think Carl Froch is elite, despite him winning the world title, you know, despite him going over to the US and knocking out one of their fighters in the last round of a fight that he was losing, former undisputed middleweight champion. Why is Carl Froch not elite?
Well, the first thing, I'll start at the end before I go to the start. So that whole Jermaine Taylor knockout, what you got to remember is for the 12 rounds, he was getting the business in that fight. And that Jermaine Taylor wasn't the Jermaine. Remember, Jermaine Taylor got knocked out by Pavlik in the first fight. So it wasn't even the same Jermaine Taylor, and he was still giving him the business. But even if that's the case, and you're going to say he knocked him out, me personally, an elite fighter, to me, an elite fighter is you beat elite level competition. So when I look at Carl Froch, he fought an elite fighter in Andre Ward and he got battered. He got absolutely battered. He lost every single round. When he fought Kessler the first time, he lost. And then Kessler, a little bit over the hill and up and past it, he then beat him after that. Me personally, an elite fighter, you have to be, in my opinion, you have to be either the best in your division or one of the best in the sport. So, for example, just because you're top 3 or top 2 doesn't mean you're an elite fighter. I'll give you an example. Jarrett Hurd, a couple years ago, he was considered one of the best at 154. Doesn't mean he's an elite fighter. He's just a good fighter at his weight class. An elite fighter is, when you look at the sport of boxing, he is in that list. Carl Froch was never in that list, in my opinion. Never.
Laurie, what about this question here for you? Big up Nathan in the chat. Thank you for the comment. He's put, who would you rate as the best British boxer not to win a world title?
What, currently? Because
I'm guessing maybe in the past, like Errol Graham or someone maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Errol Graham's the obvious one. You know what I mean? He was a super talented fighter that, for whatever reason, never got to the top of the mountain. He got brutally knocked out by Julian Jackson, who a lot of people think is probably the hardest punching middleweight ever. So, yeah, man. So, yeah, man, you could have Errol Graham. I mean, there's so many world titles around these days that normally, if a guy is that good, they are going to end up winning a version of world title, especially if they're navigating.
Shane got a world title in the back.
Hmm?
Shane got a world title in the back.
Can I say why I thought, just to answer what Laurie said before about, do you not feel like it's unfair to say that Britain is, because of the size of his country, it shouldn't be compared? The reason why that's not the truth is because if you look at the hype that's built around some of these fighters, it's just ridiculous. Like, you look at the hype around someone like Callum Smith, and the substance behind it was just, he was considered the best 168 pounder in the world. It wasn't in Britain, it was in the entire globe, and he put on a performance like that. So to me, I don't feel like it's unfair, because if you're saying that you're elite around the world, then I'm not looking at you as you're coming from a small country. I'm looking at you as a global sports figure. And as a global sports figure, he was dreadful against Canelo.
I've got some more comments here. Really go through.
Elite is a very overused term. I think personally, the only elite fighters in recent years I can say categorically are elite fighters. I mean, okay, AJ and Fury, you could make a case for those guys. But like Lennox Lewis and Kawasaki, man, you know what I mean? Like, those guys are like...
Those are elite fighters.
Was Ricky Hatton elite?
Who?
Ricky Hatton, was he elite?
No, I wouldn't say so. No. I mean, look what happened when he fought Mayweather. Look what happened when he fought Pacquiao. He got blitzed. So I'm not sure.
But Ricky Hatton was never elite. He was just another hyper. He's hype man.
Right, let me just go through these comments here. We'll go through these comments because we're almost out of time, but we'll go on for a little bit longer, maybe another 10, 15. Yes, has put, they just have a heavy domestic scene with a lot of passionate fans. So I think the boxers feel like that they've hit the pinnacle when they're on the top of the UK. Boxing Comparisons here has put Britain needs better coaching. That's something that you've said. Is that you, Shane? Did you write that? We've got IA here in the chat as well. He's put, in my opinion, even AJ needs a few months in Buddy McGirt's gym, wild card, and even Philly gyms will do him wonders.
I agree.
We've got
I agree.
JC back here. He's put Frankie Gavin blew his career. He did. And then Boxing Comparisons has responded to that by saying Frankie Gavin was a good domestic level fighter that got promoted very well.
Well, Frankie Gavin was a world-class amateur. That he's a typical of what Shane was talking about earlier, that he was a world-class amateur that never made the grade as a professional. He's a classic case of that.
And Nathan's put here, yes, Gavin was a wasted talent. Also, Kevin Mitchell didn't win a world title. So, you know, quite a few people in the comments seem to agree. You know, they seem to agree that we're falling short on the world level here. Jeff, can I get your opinion quickly? We've got about 10, 15 minutes, I'd say, left on this show. I want to get your opinion on Spence and Crawford, where you're at with that. Do you think it will happen this year? And also, just give me some of your thoughts as to some of the fighters that you're excited about that are on the way up in the States.
As far as Spence and Crawford, I don't think the fight is going to happen. Just too much politics going on. If the fight happens, I think Crawford beats Spence like 8-4, 9-3. I think Crawford is that good. I think the difference is the footwork. And he can give Spence so many different looks. By the time Spence figures it out, he's going to be down 4 or 5 rounds. And after that, he's going to be done. As far as fights coming up in the States, like fights that I just want to see Jerron Boots Ennis get a shot at somebody big. Really outside of that, I'd be honest with you, AJ Fury, man. Give me AJ Fury. Also, a lot of people were really down on Caleb Plant facing Canelo, but I think Caleb Plant can do some good things, and I think he'll lose that fight, but I think he could do some good things against Canelo. He has a lot of the physical skill sets that it takes to give Canelo problems. So, yeah, I think the biggest fight that could realistically happen that I'm looking forward to is AJ and Fury. Period.
Where is boxing on the American scale right now? I know we spoke about earlier, but in terms of its popularity, I know NFL's up there, basketball. Where does boxing rank amongst the other sports in America running?
Not high at all. We have top ranked cards that come on ESPN. We have to wait for a college football game to be over for them to start. I would say out of all of the sports, boxing might be the 8th or 9th most popular sport out of all of the sports in the States. So we are a second tier sport in the States, period. But that's why I love the UK so much, because UK is boxing, football. Am I correct?
football, boxing. Football,
yes.
Boxing. Yeah.
Where would you say boxing sits, Laurie, in the UK?
Yeah, like I said, you got football, which is
rugby.
I would say boxing's on a par with those other sports, man. Especially now we got guys like AJ and Fury at the helm, because obviously they're attracting a lot of casual fans as well. Fury and AJ and people like that. But this goes back to what Jeff said there was very true. It goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is that although we're a much smaller country, I think we take boxing a lot more seriously in this country than they do in America. So even though they've got a vastly superior population, in terms of boxing as an entity, I think boxing's probably bigger here than it is over there. So, and that would exist as well in terms of people taking up the sport. I mean, I go to America a lot. I haven't traveled obviously because of the COVID thing last year, but I go to America a lot. You know that, though. And when I go to America and I engage with people, you know, you chat to them about boxing. A lot of them don't know what you're talking about, man. They're not, they're not really interested. It's all about American football and basketball and in baseball. You know what I mean? That's the impression I get. And certainly even when you're looking at their terrestrial TV over there, boxing very rarely gets a mention. Very rarely. So whereas here, thanks to Sky and people like that, you know, I mean, boxing's always in the public consciousness. And the guys at the top of the game, guys like AJ and Fury. I mean, you could go down Westfields, man, and you will see Not that it's open right now, but if you went down there, you'll see big billboards with AJ on it. I mean, you don't see those kind of things in America. You just don't. You know what I mean? So it's a shame. But
sorry.
That's how it is.
Big up Boxing Compare. Big up Big Lou, man. What's going on, bro? Didn't even know that was you, but what's up, man? Good to see you here in the chat. Yes, sir, in the chat as well, he's put NFL, NBA, MLB, Major League Baseball, golf, tennis, NHL, college football, college basketball, all bigger than boxing. Wow. All of those.
That's true.
And the UFC's put as well. And the UFC. We're gonna wrap this one up, man. But let me just go around and ask each of you individually. I'll start with you, Shane. I don't want to just make this all about the UK, but let me know what you think about because you're quite dismissive of the UK as to us being on that particular level. What needs to happen for that to change? What would you suggest?
Well, the most important thing is I feel like we have to stop looking at Britain stop looking at the domestic scene and look at the world scene. And I feel like the way we do that is start to look at how we grow fight. You know, I put a question on your Instagram the other day. Do you prefer the Eastern European style of amateur career or the Mexican style of amateur career or American style? Britain doesn't really have a style of how they grow their fighters. In Mexico, they throw them into the pro ranks straight away. In Eastern Europe, they nurture them through the amateurs. So we don't have an identity at the lowest level. And then another thing is we are so happy with domestic success. I feel like Laurie just said something which is so important. Fighters like Lawrence Okoli and Anthony Yard, Joshua Buckley, they look at AJ and say AJ's on billboards. So when they get like Adidas sponsorship or Nike sponsorship and they haven't even won anything, it's like I'm already made it and you ain't really done anything on the global scale. Just sorry to go on sidetrack. There's a fighter in Britain called Richard Riakpo. Every other day he's posting something about Adidas because he got Adidas still, but he's not winning any fights. So that's all. That doesn't mean anything to me. We have to start looking at fights like it's not about being big in England. England's a small place when it comes to the entire world. So if you want to be a global star, start looking outside of the sport. Start going to train abroad. Start going to get when you're going through the ranks, go and get an American journeyman. Go and get an American trainer. Go and do stuff like that. Who's actually going to get you experience around the world. So when you see different styles, kind of like how the Cubans do, they've seen every style through the amateur rank. So when you turn pro, nothing's a surprise. So we look like a fish out of water sometimes when we're fighting a pro. So it's not really a good look.
What about this comment here, Laurie, before I go to you and then you, Jeff? Jamie Payne said here, that being said, you'd think more of the stars from the USA would want to fight in the UK, especially as we have Eddie Hearn at the helm for us. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a bit of an oxymoron because although we were talked about boxing is a bigger sport here than it is in America in terms of fan base, in terms of actually becoming a bigger global star and making more money, boxing is one of those sports where you've got to kind of crack it in the US if you are going to be that global star. So although we said all this stuff, and that is true about boxing being a bigger sport, pound for pound here than it is over there. If you want to crack that global market and be the big star, pay-per-view cards, big Las Vegas nights out, you got to crack that American market, which Fury and AJ have managed to do. So yeah, it's a difficult one, man. It's a difficult one. So yeah, there is a grain of truth in that. And you know, Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren are both very good promoters. Eddie Hearn's got Sky and DAZN behind him now as well. So yeah, man. I mean, listen, we can put on those shows in the UK, you know, before Corona come along, where we had 80, 90,000 at Wembley and so forth. But in terms of generating the really big money, that's generated in the US. That still remains the number one site for making boxing stars in boxing. Okay.
So Jeff, we'll finish up with you. What would you like to see? I mean, with regards to Shane and Laurie's comments there, like if you're good UK fighters, like do you feel that they need to come over to the US more in order to develop more and get themselves More if that's what you feel needs to be taken on the next step to get to that level?
Yeah, I think they definitely need to come over to the States, and they need to come to the States early. You can't be 27, 28 years old and then come over to the States and think you're going to make major changes. Probably the habits that you have, you're probably going to continue to have them. Get them over here while they're young. Even in the amateurs, if you can get them over here for a month, 6 weeks, something like that, I think that'd be great. Shane made a great point about the Cubans. Cubans are not surprised by any style because they see every single style coming up in the ranks. And I think that's where the UK falls short, is just, when they come over to the States for a fight, it's the bright lights, and then what's in front of them is almost like foreign language. Like, they're like, wow, I don't usually see this in the, the UK gyms, things like that. I think to cap it off, better coaching. I think better coaching. I don't think there's one trainer in the UK you can throw them over in the US and they will be considered top 5. And I think that's a problem. So it needs to be better coaching and just get them exposed to more styles while they're young.
It's a fantastic point to leave it at there, man. That's brilliant said. Before I wrap up, Lo, do you agree with that? Like, if you take any trainer from the UK, would you think that would they not make the top 5 in the US? Like our top trainers over here, what do you think? You think Jeff's got a good point there?
I think he has got a good point. I think that there are trainers over here that could exist and do well in America. But I think in America, it's not just the trainers, it's the environment, it's the gyms, it's the sparring, it's the mentality, it's the culture that breeds a fighter as well as the skill set. I mean, this is what we were saying earlier about Luke Campbell. He had skills to do better in that Ryan Garcia fight, but unfortunately, the mentality wasn't quite right. And so it showed on the night. Ryan Garcia's mentality on the night was superior to his. And in the end, that's what won him the fight. So, yeah.
Go through the comments here. And just before I wrap up, BK here has put Mickey Mouse with a beard. I don't know if he's talking about me or you, Jeff. but we got
that Philly beard going on, man. That
Philly beard, man. And then, yeah, I love it. And JC as well in the chat here, he's put Jeff's brutal. Yeah, brutal but honest, man. And you know what? He made a lot of points there. A lot of good points.
What am I brutal about?
Yeah, what's he brutal about, man? Is he honest?
What he's saying, he's brutally honest, and I think Jeff's right, man. I mean, listen. When you go to America, I've been to some of those American gyms, man. They don't take no prisoners. The sparring is brutal. It's hard, and it's a top dog mentality. You've seen the stuff, even emanating from Mayweather gyms, you know what I mean? Where they have them dog out sparrings and stuff like. Listen, I'm not saying that we should replicate that entirely in the UK, but they seem to have a mentality there, man, that serves them well in those big fights. You see American fighters, man, they're naturally very confident. Even if, so I'll give you an example. So you could have guys like Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. They're not what I call big trash talkers, yeah? They don't talk a lot of shit. But the body language of these guys, man, they're alpha males. They're superior confident, you know what I mean? And Shane made the point as well. I was at that fight at Sheffield. You were there as well, Darryl. When Errol Spence came over to fight Kell Brook, Jeff, yeah? And we saw the way Errol Spence composed himself at the press conferences. You saw him sat there. He didn't say a whole lot, but you could see that steely determination in it. And you knew, man, that the guy was there to fight. And when he came out that night, man, trust me, they were booing at him. They were spitting at him. They were calling him all kind of names. And I'm sure a lot of them were racial and all that type of stuff. Errol Spence went in there, man. And listen, Kell Brook was a real live dog at that time. Okay, he lost to Golovkin, but Kell Brook as a welterweight at that time was a beast. And he was fighting in front of his own people. And he was extra motivated, man. And he came to win. And Errol Spence, and it was a competitive fight, especially early on. But Errol ripped it from him. And this is what I'm saying, what Luke didn't do, man. You know what I mean? He had an opportunity in that second round. He decked him heavy. What did he do? Instead of taking the initiative to Ryan Garcia, stamping his flag in the middle of the ring and saying, listen, man, I've come to win, he retreated. Both physically and mentally retreated. And yes, we're all saying Garcia showed a lot of heart and all that. But if you're in a fight, man, and a guy's knocked you down and you got up and you're hurt, you're buzzed, and you're thinking to yourself, hang on a minute, this guy's not coming after me. You're going to think to yourself, well, you know what? If he's not coming after me, I'm going to go after him. So, you know, we're not trying, myself and Shane and Jeff, we're not like trying to dump on Luke Campbell. These are just honest observations, right? I've seen it now from Luke Campbell. I've seen it from Callum Smith. I've seen it from Rocky Fielding. I've seen it from Kell Brook when he fought Crawford.
Anthony Crolla.
Crolla was, yeah, that was another one. These guys are not displaying a sufficient winning mentality to win titles abroad. They're just not doing it.
Big up BK, man. He's put new sub. I respect, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for subbing to the channel, man. That means a lot. Thank you. Mohammed Ahmed just got in here and I like this topic. Bro, you're coming towards the end of the show, man. Listen, bro, it's been fire. It's been fire, man. A lot of great opinions here, man. These guys know their stuff. And listen, guys, like I'm just glad that I was able to get all you guys here. I think it's been a terrific chat. Great to have Jeff here, first of all, man, all the way from Philadelphia. We definitely have to get you back on again, man. For sure.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. I appreciate the invite. Appreciate it.
Jeff reminds me of Freeway, man. Freeway. That's the Philly guy as well, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I heard didn't he lose a son or something like that recently, Freeway?
Yes. Yeah, I think he lost his son. Yeah.
Very sad. I was a big fan of his back in the day, man.
Yeah, I've met him too.
It's been nice corresponding with you, man. Big up, Jeff.
Hey, man, it's been great being on here, man. Big shout out to both of you guys and Shane being Shane as usual.
Big up Shane, man. Always good to have Shane here as well, man.
Yeah,
Never one to hold back on his opinions, for sure.
You know that when Shane's on the show, you're going to get it real, raw, and uncut.
I appreciate you guys, man. And we're going to wrap up there because we're like 1 hour, 15 minutes in. But yeah, appreciate you all. And thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you all for the comments. Mohammed, you just missed out, man, I'm afraid. But just catch back on the show. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'll happily reply to you, bro. And yeah, we'll be back next week. Me and Laurie will be back. Jeff, Shane, we're going to have to get you guys back on again soon. And thank you all, man. I appreciate you all in there. And we'll catch you on the next video. Enough love.